Hi, this is Joey Hunter again, coming to you with a fabulous guest, somebody who is very well known, who is quite different from the usual people that I interview. I was going to say normal people. You may want to say he's not normal, but I think he's very normal. And before I forget, I want to thank NADIA, SHAHRIK, and Muhammad and Era Productions for making this all possible. This is close to one of 30 telecasts or podcasts, whatever you want to call them. But I'd like to welcome Dustin Pittman. Dustin, where are you? All right, Dustin's joined. All right.
Thank you, Joey.
You know, the most exciting part of interviewing Dustin is to see what he's wearing. If ever there was a fashion plate, it's Dustin. Dustin has got the best outfits that anybody has ever seen. So I'm going to be surprised to see what he's wearing today. And I don't know why he's not on the screen. I see he joined. Wait, we have a little. There we go. Dustin, look at you, man. Got the glasses on.
Thanks, Joey.
Look, we all know you're a fabulous photographer. We know you've got a tremendous book that's beautifully done. One of the best black and white books I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen a lot of them by a lot of different photographers growing up in this industry. But look at you. Look at that hat. 4 West Street. What does that mean? Why do you have your hats made up? What does that one mean?
Actually, this West 4th Street hat is a famous basketball court in West 4th Street in Greenwich Village. And I honor that, play basketball there, and I honor that. And a lot of my friends are
Well, we got a little glitch here. Dustin is frozen on the frame. I don't know what happened here. Let's see. He's frozen. Well, there we go. There you go. Oh, so this is from the basketball court. That's a famous basketball court.
Yeah, I mean,
on
a lot of my friends play basketball there. I played there, and there's 2 real famous basketball courts. One is on West 4th Street in Greenwich Village and 6th Avenue, and the other one is in the Bronx. And they are amazing. And just if you don't even play basketball, but just to watch basketball, it's incredible to watch the games because the players are absolutely phenomenal. They are phenomenal, and you're on the edge of your feet watching these games. So I mean, that's one of the reasons why I honor the basketball court, and also I kind of grew up around West 4th Street, outside of the Adirondacks. I kind of I grew up in the village. I would like to say spent a lot of time in the village.
I spent a lot of time on those basketball courts watching. When I was a young model and I was making my rounds, I would stop there and I would watch them play. And I got to say, they were great. They were really good players. And I watched some super games, and a lot of times pros would play there. They would go there and play one-on-one or 3 and 5, and usually the games were 3 against 3. So it was it's one of the places to stop and see when you're in New York. Now let me ask you another question about fashion. You grew up in the fashion business with a lot of groundbreakers, designers that had just started out, like Giorgio Sant'Angelo and Anna Sui and people like that who were just new in the business, aside from the Halstons that were established and the Ralph Laurens. And so you started with a lot of these people. And I notice you always have an amazing jacket on. Now, it's a basic jacket, it seems, but it's full of sayings, patches, whatnot. Now, do you design it or do you put those patches on yourself? Or how does that originate? Is it an original or is it, well, it's an original for you, I assume.
Yeah.
But
It's, it's, well, I have a lot of jackets. I mean, I love jackets. I have a lot of jackets, and it all depends on like where I'm going and what the vibe is. Sometimes you'll see me wear a white leather jacket that is like my palette, and I turn it into an art piece and let everybody sign it and tag it. So it all depends where I'm going. Like right now, I'm wearing a Detroit Red Wings hockey official hockey coat that they throw on in between games. And, Detroit Red Wings, I love Detroit Red Wings. So, like, that's really, and also I'm wearing my official Edie shirt, which I knew Edie. So, but, yeah, as far as like, the way I dress and my fashion, and everything, I mean, I've had a lot of experience with designers who taught me a lot and stylists who taught me a lot. And I mean, just incredible. I mean, I was really, really grateful and privileged enough to work with the top of the stylists and hair and makeup and, models and editors. Just incredible. So, I mean, it just rubs off you. The DNA rubs off on you, I
yeah.
mean, incredible.
And I notice you wear black a a lot of your T-shirts and a lot of the jackets are black, except for the really splashy jackets that you wear. I mean, I kind of love them. I don't know if I can carry them off, but you seem to carry it off, like a fashion icon.
Yeah, well, it's just like I don't know. I mean, it's just like I like to wear black because that's a nice palette to mix and match things. Like I've always said, all my life, it's not what you wear, it's not what designer you wear, it's how you wear it. And so you mix and match, and you just kind of like you work how you feel. Some of my best friends, like Jimmy Webb and incredible people, performers like Iggy. I mean, they would put on something and just they had to feel it. You have to feel what you're wearing. You have to have passion for what you're wearing. You have to believe in what you're wearing. And you walk out the door not to make an entrance, but to maintain your identity.
Well, nobody could say it better than that, Dustin. I mean, I really believe that you have summed it up what fashion is all about, and why uh, different people like particular designers because of the passion and the feeling that it brings to them. Like when they put on a jacket or they put on a suit or they put on a pair of jeans, it's the feeling that they get from it. When a woman wears a beautiful gown, it's the feeling that she brings into a room when she enters. And I believe that's, you summed it up when you say that. So I thought I'd bring up the fashion because, I've read your book, I've read everything. I know pretty much all about you and your photography and your work. So I really wanted to get an insight on your fashion sense. Now, I got another question, which I think we could start this thing going. Where are you originally from? And how did you come to get to New York? I mean, I came from Brooklyn and I knew I wanted a better life. So I went to New York City to get this better life. And sure enough, I worked hard. I became a model. I became, an actor. Became an agent, a manager. I owned a company called Ford Models. Now tell us what brought you to the big city and where did you come from?
Well, first of all, I want to say, Joey, I honor you because you're my legend. I mean, you've done it all, and seen it all, and I've known you forever, and I mean, it's been nothing but incredible heights with you and I. So I'm really, really grateful that we're just doing this interview. But to just cut to the chase, I grew up in the Adirondack Mountains on a farm, and I spent my childhood in the Adirondack Mountains, and photographing. I started photographing when I was 6. I joined the Boys Club, and the Boys Club had a photography class, and they gave us cameras, and they taught us how to develop and print film, and they taught us how to, and we'd go out and shoot pictures of our friends and our neighbors and our aunts and uncles, and I would shoot pictures of my animals, my cows and stuff like that. And, then we would critique the pictures. So that's kind of like how I started. And also my grandfather and aunt were photographers. They dabbled in photography. So that was really great, that I really got their DNA and I got their vibe, and they taught me a lot about image making and the power of image. But outside of the fact is that I was lucky enough to have an older brother that lived in he moved to Greenwich Village in 1962 on McDougal and Bleecker, one of the historic blocks in Greenwich Village. So I was lucky enough where my parents would let me go down on a Greyhound bus and go to the Greenwich Village and stay with my brother. And that's when it was all the coffee shops like the Ruenzi and the Cafe Juan and the Figaro and all of them, the Tin Angel, and it was just unbelievable. Kettle Fish. So like I grew up with myself when I was a little tot. I was hanging around these coffee shops when they were doing folk music and poetry readings, and it was amazing. And then it moved on to the hippies. And then that's when I moved to New York, like in 68, 69, I moved to New York. And that's when, I started, kind of like put one foot in front of the other. And I don't know, since I was lucky, I was put one foot in front of the other and started hanging around with the movers and shakers in New York,
It's
in fashion and music and those social causes.
it's just interesting that in the 60s, like 68, 67, I was living on Barrow Street,
Ah,
which,
sure.
which was sort of the outskirts of the village because
Yeah, yeah.
Hudson Street was a no man's land. It was just a few bars and a few, cleaning stores and whatnot. So I understand the village at that time, and it puts you in the spotlight because it was really hip to be down there and to be involved in the scene that was down there. And this is sort of your whole background, and I think it made you what you are today, is growing up in that kind of environment.
Yeah, I mean, I think for myself, I'm very grateful. I mean, I moved from scene to scene, from the beatniks to the hippies to Woodstock to into the fashion business, and like moved in fashion and music and design. It's just amazing. And just, at that time, like, Joey, like that time, the boundaries are down. It was the summer of love between 67 and unfortunately, the AIDS crisis. And, all the boundaries are down. All the boundaries are down. You're able to roll with people and have a community of, in relationship, in conversation, one-on-one conversations where you could gather a tribe from all different areas and create art. You could create movies. There was underground movies, the cinema verite and films. There was like all kinds of jazz going on, all kinds of poetry readings. So like everything led to like moving forward creatively, and these juices were flowing.
Yeah. And I remember, the scene was down there. I remember getting my first pair of leather pants uh, from a designer on Christopher Street, and he made my leather pants. And this was like early '70s, and I wanted to get a Python jacket. Everybody was using Python at that time too, and I remember I could only afford a Python belt. And I forget it was a Spanish designer over on Christopher. I forget his name. Uh, but I thought that made me, oh, part of the downtown crowd when really I was part of the uptown crowd and not really what we would call a scenester. I mean, sure, I went to the Mud Club, I went to Area, I went to all the different discos downtown. I've got to say, though, I was never at CBGB's, never. And so I missed that part of the scene. But I tried to uh, keep up, but I think I was sort of an outsider because they always looked at me as an uptowner, and not a downtown. Whereas you fit right in and really went with it. And as we know, and as in your book, tell me, when does your book start and what era, what year?
Well, this book started, we chose to start in '67, but 68, but I go way back before then. But the thing is, it's from '68 to '82, maybe '83 a little bit. That's it. And there's not a lot. There's pictures of course, there's a lot of pictures in the book, over 300. But the thing is, there's a lot of pictures not in the book on published that are incredible because they had a lot of kind of restrictions on the book as far as like they really wanted to. For me to show pictures that people could identify who were in the pictures, whether it's designers or whatever. And you know what, my MO and my style of photography has always been from shooting, right from the beginning, shooting my two cows, Heidi and Flower, has been shooting unknown people.
Yeah.
That's has been important to me because, the unknown, everybody's a star to me. Everybody's a star. Everybody was a star. Everybody is a star. So like the thing is, it was important to me not just to shoot designers and, celebrities or celebrityism, but to shoot people because, it was incredible. The looks, the way their body languages are, their identity was really important to me.
Well, a lot of the unknowns that you shot, became mainstream, or you shot them before they became mainstream and before they became household names and everybody had heard of them or knew about them. And you were in on the ground floor of shooting all these people.
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky. I mean, I'd like to say, not to sound pomp, I'd like to say that it's kind of like newness and to smell out the new is in my DNA, where not just in fashion and like, in designers, but in music too. Of course, with the community of my friends, who help me and guide me into those directions also. I mean, it's just not me, it takes a village. So the thing is, it was really amazing. I mean, to shoot Iggy and the Stooges in 1969 and 1970 was pretty radical because the rock critics didn't like Iggy and the Stooges. Majority of the rock critics, or like a lot of designers. I mean, like moving fast forward to like 2004, 2005. When people like Hood by Air, these young street designers who are very popular now, and or Gypsy or Luar right now, Raul Lopez or Telfar Global or Gypsy Sport. Most of the editors didn't come to their shows, and their shows were very a small audience. Just their friends would show up, but they were amazing, doing tremendous new designs. A new vibe that's going on. They kind of like, again, it's back to the street. They were at the street. They were in tune with what was going on with the street, and they brought it to the runway and they brought it to the people. And that was amazing. And you talk about, when you put on clothes and in fashion, how you feel good about it. Well, that's what's one thing that's nice about this see, to look at a designer's face and see a designer's design, their
Yeah.
dress on or their outfit on somebody. It's amazing to see their face and how they sparkle and how they just smiles for miles, and that's a wonderful feeling because designers I mean, I have a lot of respect for creative, of course. Designers, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of hard work to stay in business. So I honor them. I honor the creatives, how amazing it is. You know, to survive in this, in any field, in any business in the art world, whether it's design, whether it's music, whether it's writing, whether it's poetry, whatever it is, whatever field you're in, it's tough. Especially today, it's tough. It's, you know, social media, where, you know, you're a swipe away.
You knew designers on a different level than I did. I knew designers basically as the bad guy negotiating for the model, you know, whereas when the model met the designer downtown or in a disco, and the designer said, "Oh, I love her. I love her. I can't wait to book her." And, you know, tell the girl or tell the guy, "Man, I can't wait to book you. Can't wait to book you." So then, "Oh, call my agent. Call my agent." And of course, they call the agent, and the agent says, "Well, you know, she's very busy, and he's very busy, and he's a lot of money." How could that be? I just saw him. I just saw her. She said she'd work for me. I said, "Well, you know," I had to be the bad guy, you know. And then I loved all the designers that really didn't have the money to pay for a show. And I worked with them a lot, and I really helped them, I felt, because I would convince the guys, especially the guys and some of the girls, to work without any money and to work for clothes. You know, and designers that come to mind are like Jacques Bellini on West 59th or West 60th Street by Serendipity, Dimitri, Sal Cesarani, who worked for, Ralph Lauren, you know,
Yeah,
people.
so
So we helped. You know, I felt that I contributed to helping them out. You know, uh, I mean, I have more clothes by Sal and Dimitri and Bellini,
yeah,
and I caught the tail end of Tommy Hilfiger also when he was just starting out, and we tried to help. We tried to make it easy for them to book the top models, to be able to show their clothes uh, in a good way with recognizable people. But you were in the battlefield. You were right down there in the trenches, as we used to say.
yeah, that's true. I mean, you know, I was fortunate enough to be friends with, you know, befriend a lot of designers. I mean, you know, from the beginning, 1969, 70, I was hanging out with Stephen Burrows. I was hanging out with Georges and Angela. I was hanging out with Fernando Sanchez. I mean, these are movers and shakers, you know, like incredible, doing incredible stuff. And like, you know, traveling the world and just like, you know, coming back with these ideas and these like vibes that, you know, to gather these collections, it was amazing. And, you know, to be in their apartments and be in their houses and, you know, Halston and being in these houses was just incredible because, you know, you know, just one thing leads to another. And like a lot of times we would do shootings right there, you know, to throw up a closet and they would bring out the clothes and we do a shooting right there, right in the house or whatever. Just, you know, just play.
Yeah.
We'd play
So
and, you know, experiment.
so tell me, Dustin, you come to New York from the Adirondack, grew up on a farm or in a rural area, and here you are in New York, in the village scene, and from there, here you are today with a magnificent book, uh, which is, as we say, from the 70s to the 90s. Am I correct? Or tell me
No,
what
it's 67 to 82.
67
Yeah,
to 80.
no 90s. Yeah, just I mean, I have other
There's the,
decades, but nothing yet.
so tell me about yourself and about living and, what you did to make a living. Because look, showing up at parties or concerts and taking pictures, is they don't pay you to do it most of the time. Most of the time, you do it on your own. You did it on your own for your own for your own benefit and for your own satisfaction. Am I correct? Tell me all about that. How you made it work.
Well, the image making, photography and film was always my love, from the beginning. I learned that from my grandfather, and my aunt. And the thing is, when I got to New York, I befriended Andy Warhol. I met Andy Warhol, and we hung around. And I used a lot of when Andy was using the superstars then, Jackie Curtis and Hollywood Lawn and Candy Darling, and Mario Montez, all the super Taylor Mead, Sylvia Miles. And so, like, the thing is, I was friends with them. So, of course, I would really, ask them, we're all friends and we all trusted each other. We all had respect for one another. And, so, we would do films together. So I do films of them and, take pictures of them. And this is like 69, 70. But, what really made it all possible is like, and I know it sounds ridiculous, but when I first got to New York, I moved in Alphabet City on 14th Street and Avenue D, and I had a three-room railroad flat with a pull chain toilet in the bathroom and a tub in the kitchen that I used as a table. You put a board on top and use it as a table. But my rent, including gas and electric, was $14 and I think $14 or no, $12.50 a month.
Oh my
That
God.
was my rent. And the thing is, with overhead that low, you're able to like get out there and create and get out and hang out with the movers and shakers of the people that you really wanted to be with, the passion, your friends, and you're able to create and experiment, hang around the back room at Max's and different clubs or different lofts on Soho when it was all industrial trucks and industrial raw loft space, where we used to have jazz concerts or, make films and stuff like that. So, you just rolled with the crowd and it was really wonderful. But, for me, it was all about survival. Like I did modeling. I modeled. I worked. I know Barry Berenson, who since she passed away, but she did a lot of work for Vogue Men, and it was the beginning. And Vogue, they used to have in the beginning, and it was Vogue Men, and so I was in that a couple issues of that and other magazines, and so I did a lot of modeling for designers and and then whatever job I had, I picked. I was lucky enough to expand it, and it turned into it. You know what? It like my life has been from, I'm just saying that, you make lemonade from lemons. And like I would get a job like I got a job at the A Street Bookshop in like 1969, 1968, 69. And the thing is, and it was just a small job. But the thing is, in the A Street Bookshop, people like Allen Ginsberg and Dion Arbus and people like Robert Frank would come in and I would chat with them and learn from them and just have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
That was great. And then from the A Street Bookshop, I moved over to Grove Press, Barney Rossett, who owned Grove Press Publishing. And it was amazing. He bought a whole building in 1971, I think, or 70. He bought a whole building on Mercer and Bleecker, and it was like 4 or 5 floors, maybe 4 floors in the basement. And I worked for him, and he turned the basement. He loved experimental films, and we worked on the first Grove Press Film Festival together, and we showed. And he made a lot of money. He had made a lot of money on two films that he imported from Sweden or Denmark. It was called "I Am Curious Yellow" and "I Am Curious Blue." The Kronhausers, they made the films and they made a fortune. It was one of the first commercial porn films ever, but he made a fortune. And I loved working for Grove Press because, I worked for Evergreen Review, taking pictures. Um, I photographed as a participant and a photographer. I photographed the social causes of the first, gay rights march, and I photographed the first 1970 Women's Rights March in New York, and that was really important to me because the identity and causes, and just it was an amazing time to, to start expressing, taking back your identity or keeping your identity, and not being erased like it was happening. So that was a really great time. But at Grove Press, I mean, this is how it turned out. At Grove Press, I started working for Barney, and he put me in charge of the experimental film department. And he had hundreds and hundreds of 16 millimeter experimental short films. Stan Brakhage, Ron Rice, everybody, Amos Fogel, Jonas Mekas. He had all these different films. So I used to go down at nighttime alone in the screening room and screen all these films and learn from these films. So I mean, you know what? That's how you make lemon for not that working for Grove Press was a lemon because I love Grove Press. I mean that's the publishing house that they banned all the books. Whether it's Henry Miller or Robert Frank or whoever. So I was pretty lucky. From there, I went started shooting a lot of fashion. My studio was literally underneath 23rd Street. My studio. You had to go down into the hole and go under 23rd Street, and that was my studio. And I used to bring all my people down there, shooting down there, and it was the most incredible studio. And my other open air studio, always in the 70s, was Times Square. I loved Times Square. I loved the grittiness of Times Square. I loved the way the people were, the whole contrast between the peep shows and the movie theaters and all the chaos that was going on. There was incredible contrast between shooting either Norma Kamali or shooting Betsy Johnson or shooting whoever I was shooting. It was incredible contrast to get that together. I mean, even the celebrities I bring to Times Square and shoot them, and it was amazing. It was amazing getting that. Another open air studio that I used to use because I used to use a lot of natural light. I started out with natural light. So it was the West Side, the ultimate West Side with the piers and all the piers and all the West End. And that was all like really like in disarray. So, I mean, it was really great. And then I moved on to, working for different I worked for W for many years. And, I worked with the best of the editors of W and stylists, Andre Leontali. And it was just incredible. And I worked directly one-on-one with John Fairchild, the publisher of W. And, I learned a lot. I learned a lot. I mean, work with different designers, and I've shot mostly all the American and European designers, in their atelier or in their design rooms or on location or whatever. But when you work with those designers, you learn so much from them. It's unbelievable. Being in the design rooms, being in, looking at the mood boards, looking at the different, how they're putting things together, how they're accessorizing things. I mean, working with Halston and Elsa Peretti is incredible, like Joe Eula, even as illustrators like Kenneth Paul Block and Joe Eula, and, and it was just incredible. So, I mean, there was a lot of friends that I had during that time, like downtown. Like, I would like to think the book isn't, the book is about the community, my community, you. It's about you. It's about the community. That's who I shot it. It's not about me. It's about you. And it's a book. I like to think it's a book of dance, and it's a dance of life.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to consider the book. And the book is about body language. It's not just about dancing body language, but it's about the way the body is, your hands are, your nape of your neck, it's your back and everything. If you look at the pictures closely, you will see a lot of dance of the body language, the way everybody is moving or extending their hands or whatever. I would like to think it's all about unguarded moments where there wasn't a camera in your face and, they had a lot of respect for me. I had respect for them, and I was able to photograph, that kind of
Sure.
vibe that was totally natural and unguarded.
Where,
And people felt comfortable,
yeah,
Joey.
people were very natural, very comfortable. And, I understand the dance because it's dancing off the shelves, as we say. It's being, as I tried to get it the other day and it was sold out. And are you going to do another printing or would you do more printings of that book?
They're probably in the second printing already, but I'm already working on a second book already.
Oh,
So,
you are?
yeah.
Now, tell
I
me.
don't know whether to, like I joke about it. I don't know whether to call it Dustin Pittman New York After Darker, because this one's called Dustin Pittman New York After Dark. So, and then there's, then the third one would be called Dustin Pittman New York After Darkest.
Forever
But, whatever.
dark.
But there's a lot of images. I shoot today. I just wrapped up a shooting this morning on the streets. It was incredible, and I'm always photographing. That's what I love to do, and I'm gonna keep on photographing until my eyes close, Joey.
Well, you must have some archive of pictures, and I can't imagine where you store all this stuff. All these negatives. Because remember, when you were shooting in the beginning, everything was negatives, and
Yeah,
everything had developed, and everything was contact sheets. Remember contact
yeah,
sheets and
contact
going
sheet
over
slides and
pictures.
negatives.
Yeah, and now everything's digital. Have you made the transition from film to
Yeah,
digital?
well, I made it right from the beginning. I was like, I recognized that the technology of digital was going to be the future, but I didn't never let go of film. I shoot film all the time. I shot film this morning, and it all depends what I'm shooting, what vibe I'm shooting. In the beginning in digital, like I went back to school at Pratt. I went to school of visual arts in 1970 for 4 years. And took film. I majored in filmmaking and minored in photography. And then I went back in the 92 in the early days of film, digital photography, 92, I think, 91. I went to Pratt for 4 years. And so the thing is, I took multimedia. So I learned a lot about digital fast and computers. And that's when it was DOS and it was like Netscape 101. And that's when Photoshop, there was no layers, there was just calculations. It was really crazy. But I learned a lot about that, and I was able to do both. The hardest thing about that in the beginning of digital and film, unfortunately, if you were shooting editorial or if you're shooting for a magazine or advertising, you would want to convince them to shoot digital because that was the wave of the future, but it wasn't really heavy megabyte camera backs then. So the editors would always want you to back it up with film. So it was like double the work. It was crazy. And then eventually it turned over where, we had Hasselblad, we had phase one backs, we had enough to, and also you have to understand it was a really tough time during the transition between film and digital is because a lot of the old timers were, printers and separators, and they worked in
Yeah,
separation. And the thing is, they didn't work on page layout systems. And like, they didn't really want to let go of their jobs as separators, but eventually they were falling in the way.
yeah, falling along the wayside.
So I'm sorry. So, the thing is, it was a tough transition. Some people got it, some people didn't get it. I know people in stock agencies that I said to them, you better start digitizing your images because, that's the future. And they said, nah, it's not going to be around for years and years. But it moved fast and technology moves fast. Like I said, we're a swipe away from anything.
Yeah, yeah, because growing up in the business and growing up during the age of film, I mean, a lot of jobs were eliminated when digital came in. A lot of jobs, and when they made the transition to digital, and also they were able to lay out ads and uh, lay out advertising plans right there at the studio before it
Yeah,
left the studio. They were
right.
able to conceptualize the whole thing,
Yeah,
with
exactly.
digital versus sending it out. I remember we used to have to send out for a color test to
Yeah.
see how the color was, so we knew what the lights, and we'd send out like a roll of film, and by
Uh,
it
those
back right
days,
away, and you'd
Joey, those days, a lot of my clients, like I love the work, did a lot of work for Life magazine, but a lot of my clients only wanted to shoot Kodachrome.
right,
And like we would shoot Kodachrome 25 and 64. And then in those days, you had to use CC filters, so you put in front of the lens, and then that would put your ASA or film
right,
speed even slower. But the process of shooting those days to get good complexion, if you're shooting beauty and you have to get good complexion tone, there was no Photoshop to correct it. There was no programs to correct it whatsoever. So you know what? I would go to Fair Lawn, New Jersey, where Kodak had a processing plant, and I would buy maybe, I don't know, 100,000 or 50,000 rolls of film, and I had these big freezers in my studio. And then what we do is we buy 50,000 or maybe 25,000 rolls of film on the same cut number. So it would be all manufactured under the same, you know, under the same engineering, yeah, under the same engineering, you know, techniques. So the thing is, and then from there, we take the film and we have to test it under every lighting situation possible. And then, you know, so, you know, when you had a job and you had a client, you're shooting advertising, and if you're shooting Vidal Sassoon or you're shooting complexion, you know, some you know, campaign, you know, you have to get good skin tone. So you have to go to the film, CC the film that you know that was tested right, and then send it to the labs. But, you know, with Kodachrome film, there was only a tenth of a stop latitude. There was no forgiving whatsoever. You know, like digital today, you got a lot of like leeway. I'm not saying it's easier, it's just different,
Well,
but you know, you had a lot of leeway. Luckily, we had Polaroids, you know, a lot of Polaroids that were cheap then to shoot a lot of Polaroids. But even then, with Polaroids, you couldn't really tell the color of, you know, your color, skin tone colors or anything like that.
well, the difference too, models back in those days had to be perfect because they didn't want blemishes. They didn't want to retouch anything because retouching was very expensive. And
Retouching
today,
was on the
yeah,
negative.
and now they could do it right on the film. They right on the digital. They retouch it before they even send it out. You know, send to the client. So things were different, a lot of different. But you, you you've got many more books. Is this your first book, or have
Yeah,
you?
this is my first book. I really never wanted to do a book because a book takes time. And the thing is, I really wanted to keep on photographing and build up my archive. And as long as I could hop, skip, and jump, because I had plenty of time down the road to do a book, you know. So I really wanted to just keep on shooting and keep on shooting like I do today. So, I mean, you know, this book took a lot of, you know, it took a lot of time. And there was like, you know, we had a, you know, a whole crew that, you know, worked on it, and I'm really grateful. And the thing is, you know, it was, you know, it was a tough one. It was a tough one, but you know, at least it's out there, and you know, it's a period. But it's so amazing because from '67 to '82 is not really a long time, considering I've been around for a
Yeah.
while.
It, uh, how long did it actually take from the conception to the printing of the book?
Well, we were pretty lucky because a lot of my things were scanned already, and some things came from the image, you know, like like stuff from W and stuff that was gracious enough to you know, get in touch with contacts at Getty and you know, where I shot
Yeah.
hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of images. So, you know, I was able to, you know, they were able to grant me access to total control over these images, which was really great. But the thing is, a lot of things were scanned and everything, so it was great. I think that the miracle of the thing is, you know, the authors Mauricio and Roger Padilla, is the fact is that we put together like a puzzle. I told Brizzoli, I told Mauricio and Roger, I said I wanted to do a book that's gritty, that's exactly my style, gritty, downtown elegant, mirrored with gritty, uptown elegant. And that's how the book moves. And I said I wanted it to flow. And so we sat together and we picked out all these images, not everything, of course, but we picked out images that were like I said, they were kind of recognizable or, you know, whatever. But the thing is, we kind of put it together like a puzzle, and it kind of moves like a storybook. It's really nice. I would like to think it's a book where you could really, like, you know, curl up in bed, open up the book, and it's like a storybook, and you could read it, and it's like, you know, it's like comfort food.
Well, it definitely tells a story, and it really starts and it ends. It has a beginning and an ending, and I got to tell you, it's chock full of beautiful images, and people that you would never think would be photographed in that way. And I especially remember the 54 because I was there a lot. And
Yeah.
to see these people unmasked or, really enjoying themselves, really, truly enjoying themselves makes you feel good. It's a feel good book, it really
Thanks,
does.
Joey. Thank you.
Whatever image of, say, the 60s that you have, and you may say, oh, it was dark in those days, with the downtown scene. But it wasn't. You brought a lot of lightness and a lot of, joy to what was going on downtown. And I got to say, I mean, I, I got the book and I looked at it from cover to cover, and I read the whole introduction about you and your life, and I just hope that there is another book, and I think it should be the darkest part of New York,
Yeah.
something like that.
Well, it's there, that's for sure. I definitely covered that. But like you said, the reason why the book is such a joy for me is because the book is about love. And that's what I photographed. I photographed love. I sought out love because love, to me, there's some the beautiful people, not just the people that dress up and go to clubs, but everybody. There's a lot of love in this world, and to find that love is a gift.
I agree, and it's I had a misconception about the book, but I felt that you made everybody look beautiful, no matter in what state they were in, of joy and ecstasy and dancing and performing. They all looked great. They all had something about them that made you say, wow, what a beautiful thing this is, And you didn't show the ugliness of any part of it. It was, I hate to use the word pretty, but the book was beautiful. It was beautifully done, Uh, and I never once walked away from the page and said, oh my God, I never, she looked like that, or he looked like that, I always walked away and says, wow, that's how I remember them and how I know them, you know,
Well,
even
thanks,
though
Sherry.
they,
The people that I photographed, I mean, were beautiful in their own right. It's like the same way as like what you dress. It's not what you wear; it's how you wear it. But somebody asked a question about the hippies, and the thing is, a lot of, when Central Park was really big at the time. Of course, the Village was really big at the time for hippies in New York. And then Central Park was big, especially on weekends. There was a lot of BMs and love-ins in Central Park, around Bethesda Fountain, around Sheepshead Bay, Sheepshead Meadow, and the big lawn and stuff. And there's a lot of events that went on. Those times in Central Park were there were no boundaries. I
yeah,
mean, you would go 50 feet and there would be another tribe on the drums, on the canvas,
yeah,
playing, on the
yeah,
skins, and they would
you're
be
right,
playing on the
you're right,
skins. Or someone would be playing the sax, and you could hear from a distance a sax, a tenor sax. I mean, it was just amazing, the freedom of movement, the freedom of choice, that whole feeling, that whole energy, the freedom of energy, just to release yourself, was a magical time. And also, like, myself, I was pretty lucky because, I spent time in Chicago in, 68 and 69. And like the thing is, in Chicago, and was the hippie area was called Old Town Chicago. It was on North Wells Street, and that's where Maiden Lane was, where the Second City was, where John Belushi and Gilda Radner and everybody was there then. So I was lucky enough to be in Chicago for that year, or almost 9 months, where, all the people from Second City would be there, and then they would go to the diners, they hang out. And so like I hung around with a lot of, it was the whole hippie era. Because the thing is, it did start in Haight Ashbury in 67, whatever, 66, 67, the Summer of Love. Monterey Pop, Haight-Ashbury. But then Chicago was a little bit behind the times. So in 68 and 69, they're the ones that got the Haight-Ashbury vibe. And so it was really, you had the Avalon Ballroom, you had so many different groups coming around, and it was just incredible. And then again, in New York, with the East Village, with the Fillmore East and the Anderson Theater, and all, the different, the different movie houses, and it's just amazing. And I mean, I don't know if you remember this club before, it was a long time ago. It was called Nobody's. It was a rock and roll club. And it was before, and Jimi Hendrix was hanging out there, Jimmy Page, Led Zeppelin, everybody was hanging out there. And it was a club that wasn't about celebrities. There was no iPhone, there was no technology. It wasn't about celebrities. It was about where you could really sit down with people and have a beer or a drink with Jimmy Page or a drink with Jimi Hendrix or whatever, Janis Joplin. They would all be there because Janis Joplin lived above the ninth circle at the time. So the thing is, there was a lot of opportunities to meet, I don't want to say celebrities, but to meet creative people
You know,
and
act-
be in relationship with them and have conversations with them. And you know what? A lot of my respect for they respected me because I would sit down with these people, with these creatives, and and have a conversation with them. And I wouldn't it's a lot of times I wouldn't even bring on my camera and photograph them. We just have a conversation. They respected that. That was really wonderful.
Times have changed, Dustin. Now, like if you were to meet a celebrity or somebody who is doing something, they have 5 bodyguards and people surrounding,
Yeah.
and they're in a roped-off area, in a club. Whereas when we were growing up in the city, everybody mingled, everybody intermingled with each other. There was sure there was sections where people who of note sat, but they were accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody was accessible. Central Park was a venue. People would go there to show off their skills or to show off what they did, and that's what New York was all about in those days. It's
Yeah.
got more I hate to use the word conservative, but it's just gotten people are not as giving and or forgiving as it used to be.
Well, hopefully it'll come around again. I mean, even like in 1998, 99, I kind of smelled a new direction in music where there was a rock and roll revival. And this is when the Strokes started and the Yeah Yeah Yeahs and Oneida and Interpol and the Libertines. And I saw all these bands coming from all around the world, and they were coming to New York in these small little venues, okay, and there were going to be 20 people in the venues, and it was so intimate,
Yeah,
and they were playing all this new music. And at the time, and I photographed so many of these bands, like maybe 500, 600,
but
700 different bands, all different kinds of names. But what makes it great about it is these venues aren't there anymore. I photographed these venues, I photographed the bands outside the venues, they weren't there anymore. So
Dustin,
that was great about it, where you could sit down and have a beer
exactly.
with the Strokes.
Well, we've run out of time because I can listen to you all day, and you got the best stories and the best experience, the best life experience. You've lived your life and you were able to put it in a book. So I want to thank you because we've run out of time. Dustin, I can go on, but I guess after this, you and I will sit down on the couch
Yeah.
and continue our conversation. But let's thank Nadia Sharik and Era
Thank you.
Production, Era Stories, and I hope to be able to see you again and talk to you about your next book.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you to everybody listening or watching right now. I really appreciate it. And thank you for buying the book. And thank you for supporting me and my work. And you're my community, and I love you.
Take care. Bye, Dustin.
Bye bye.